What's up, you guys? It's Levi here. Welcome to the Cybersecurity Education channel. Holy smokers, guys. We got another week. We got another huge data breach. 100 million people from 2005 to 2019 had a Capital One breach. 100 million people. Think about how crazy that is for a second. Let's just think for a little bit. 100 million people. So 100 million people were impacted by this situation. Basically, anybody that applied for a Capital One credit card between 2005 and 2019 was involved in this data breach. If only this data breach had been a data breach that $100 million was breached and transferred to your account, or even better, my account. That situation sounds wonderful. That's not the case, but you should smash that like button and subscribe to this channel because that sounds like an amazing thing, right? All kidding aside, so today we'll be talking about what happened in this situation. We'll be talking about who this happened to. We'll be talking about what type of info affected those people. We'll be talking about how to protect yourself, and then we'll be talking about what can be learned from this situation. Alright, so here's an article from cnet.com that talks about the situation. I'll post a link down below in the description so that you guys can take a look at it. This article was dated on August 3rd, 2019. Capital One said Monday that data from more than 100 million US citizens and 6 million Canadian residents had been stolen by a hacker. So not only were US citizens affected, Canadian citizens were affected as well, just not quite nearly as many. And by Monday, they mean the Monday before this posting date of August 3rd, 2019. Continuing on, if you applied for a credit card from the US bank between 2005 and 2019, your information is likely part of this breach. Capital One has said in a statement, the data includes roughly 140,000 US Social Security numbers and about 80,000 bank account numbers. According to Capital One, the hacker also stole about 1 million Canadian social insurance numbers in the breach. I don't know what a Canadian social insurance number is because I'm not from Canada, but I'm assuming it's just like a Social Security number in the United States. Go ahead and comment down below if you're from Canada, if that's the situation or what they are. Continuing on, Capital One that said that no credit card account numbers or login credentials were compromised and that more than 99% of the Social Security numbers that Capital One has on file were not affected. The breach did, however, include names, addresses, zip codes, phone numbers, email addresses, and birth dates, all valuable assets that the hackers can use to steal from victims. So yes, all that information can be used against you if your data is in that breach, to open up new accounts in your name or to use as identity verification to be able to go into your current accounts and take over one of your current accounts. So in terms of the 100 million users that were breached, they're relative to in Social Security and bank accounts, 140,000 versus 80,000. That's a pretty small percentage of Social Security numbers and bank accounts that were information that was compromised, but the other information is just as important as well. It's just not as important. So continuing on, the FBI arrested 33-year-old tech worker named Paige A. Thompson, who goes by the name Erratic. That's a perfect name in this situation because it's pretty erratic to compromise information from 100 million users. So, nice nickname. Continuing on, prosecutors charged Thompson with computer fraud, abuse, alleging that she was behind the attack. Alright, so further down in the news article, according to court documents in the Capital One case, Thompson allegedly stole the information by finding a misconfigured firewall on Capital One's Amazon Web Services cloud server, the server that the information was stored on. Investigators accused Thompson of accessing the server from March 12th to July 17th of 2019. More than 700 folders of data were stored on that server, according to the Justice Department. Moving on, court documents showed on that showed that on the resume, Thompson was listed as a system engineer and was an employee at Amazon Web Services from 2015 to 2016. In a statement, Amazon said the former employee left the company 3 years before this incident had taken place. Amazon said that their Amazon Web Services wasn't compromised in any way, pointing out that the alleged hacker gained access through a misconfiguration on the cloud server's application, not through a vulnerability on their side. Capital One said it was unlikely the information was used for fraud or disseminated by this individual, but is committed to fully investigating the hack. The company expects that this hack will cost them approximately $100 million to $150 million in 2019. All right, so what I've seen on this case, it doesn't seem like this person was trying to be malicious and use that information for personal gain. It seemed like she was just trying to do research and had gone way too far. Just trying to gather that information is illegal, and she shouldn't have been doing that. She was also very open, posting on social media and on GitHub about the information that she was finding. It really doesn't seem like she was trying to do anything criminal, but unfortunately, it is illegal to access that information. And so far, Capital One has deemed that to be the case as well, as you saw in this article. But they're still investigating the situation. It'll be interesting to see what the result is in the long run if there was some type of personal gain motive. But for right now, it seems like your information is going to be safe. Basically what happened is this person, she's affiliated with Amazon because she worked there. That was 3 years ago though. A lot of people are thinking, oh well, she worked at Amazon, she had special access to that information because she worked at Amazon. No, Capital One had a misconfigured web server, which happens all the time, unfortunately, and it's really easy to do. And the firewall on that web server had some holes inside of it that she was able to scan and be able to break through those holes and access that information. Basically, a firewall is supposed to be able to block outbound traffic and inbound traffic coming in, and it just didn't block the traffic that she was trying to send in when it should have. So what can you do to protect yourself in these situations? Not only in this situation, but other breaches that come out, like the Equifax situation. The first thing that you want to do is you want to check if you're actually involved in the breach. Capital One stated that they're looking at creating a web page that you can go and check to see if you are involved. As of the recording of this video on August 4th of 2019, the information should be coming out this next coming week, so the week of August 5th, 2019. So go ahead and go to Capital One's website and check and see if you are involved in there. It should be coming out soon. If you're watching in the future, it might already be out there. Number two thing, make sure that you're avoiding scams in this situation. Unfortunately, there's evil people out there that like to take advantage of people in this situation. So you might have heard on this channel, you heard on this channel that there's a Capital One scam. You heard in the news that there's a Capital One scam. All of a sudden, you get a phone call, somebody saying that you're involved in the Capital One scam. They ask you for all this personal information. And then if you're not thinking about it, you might give out that information, the very information that was involved in the scam, and then they can use that information to open up accounts or get into your current accounts. So be wary of that. Be wary of text messages, emails, things like that. My best word of advice to you guys, if somebody gives you a call pretending to be part of a company and they're asking for information about you, you hang up, look up the company's number online that's calling. So Capital One in this case, you give the Capital One a phone call, ask them if you're involved in the breach, and they will tell you if you are involved or not, or they will tell you whatever that other person was calling about, if it's a legit concern or not. And if it's not, you can report that incident to them so they can investigate it. But never ever, when somebody contacts you, never ever trust immediately that they are who they say you are. Always contact the source directly, especially if you didn't initiate the situation in the first place. Actually, at one of my workplaces at one point in time, somebody called pretending to be Apple and telling them that they had a problem with their account. They almost fell for the situation. Luckily, a little red light went off in their head. They contacted IT before pursuing the situation further. I told them, hey, this is not legit. Why would somebody be calling you about your account for Apple and trying to give out all this information, or wanting you to give them all this information? So I told them to call Apple directly. Sure enough, Apple said, hey, this is a scam. They reported it, and luckily nothing bad happened. But just keep that in mind. If somebody's contacting you telling you that something's wrong, more than likely it's probably a scam, unless you initiate it. And if you're not sure, call the number directly to their company to verify. All right, so the number 3 thing that you can do to help yourself in these situations are credit monitoring. So there's websites that you can go to sign up, and it will give you alerts every time there's a change in your credit. My personal favorite is creditkarma.com. It's nice because it's free. It sends me a message every time something changes with my credit, so I'm always up to date with the latest credit changes. If somebody does something bad, opens an account or whatever, then you have the ability to go and report that as fraud and help protect yourself right away. And then also a nice added benefit is it gives you a credit score every week, so you can go in there and check that. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, do a Google search and you can find some other ones as well, but that's my favorite one. And then number 4, to help yourself, check your credit reports. So there's 3 credit reporting bureaus. There's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian that all give you 1 free credit report a year. You can go in there and see what's been opened in your name and all the credit information that you need to know for free once a year. So go ahead and check that as well. All right, so then what do you do if you have fraud committed against you? Well, the first thing that you can do in that situation is you can open up a fraud alert with one of those 3 credit bureaus that I talked about before. So you can go to their website, you fill out some information about yourself, and then by creating that fraud alert, when somebody else opens up an account in your name, they have to give extra information to be able to open up a credit account. And basically it just places a red flag on you so that those companies know that you're more at risk for future fraud, and makes it a lot harder to open credit against your name. So number 2 thing that you can do, you can put a credit freeze on all your accounts. So you do the same thing. You go to all those 3 credit bureaus websites, and you set up a lock, a freeze, and then basically no credit can be made against your name until you go back and unfreeze all those accounts. So then you know that nothing is being opened against you, making it very difficult for somebody to open credit, obviously. All right, so the number 3 thing that you can do if you know that you're involved in a credit and fraud, contact the involved fraud department. So like if you see a new account opened for Capital One or even CitiCard or something like that, Google their phone number, go ahead and give them a call to the fraud department and say, hey, I didn't create this account, and have them investigate the situation and get that account taken out of your name. And then finally, the number 4 thing that you can do to help protect yourself, or to help yourself in this situation, is to go to this handy website called identitytheft.gov and create a recovery plan from fraud. Here's a little snippet of this website, and I think this would be really useful for if you have fraud committed against you. As you can see here, there's various sections on like there's different steps that you can take. So what to do right away, it tells you to call the companies where you knew the fraud occurred, place fraud alerts, report identity theft to the FTC, things like that. Then it goes down to a section on what you should do next after you do that. Closing new accounts open in your name, removing bogus charges from your accounts, things like that. It gives you other possible steps like reporting misused social security numbers, and then it gives you steps for certain accounts, like if somebody opened up a utilities account in your name or a phone number in your name. It's a very useful site, and it can be very beneficial. I'll post the link down in the description so you guys can look at it. So yeah, those are some things that you guys can do if you think you have fraud committed against you, or if you know that you have a fraud incident committed against you. All right, so the final thing I'm going to be talking about is what can you learn from this situation? And for the average person, basically you have to be careful on who and how much data you're giving to organizations or people. That's really your best protection in this case, is if you didn't apply for a credit card in the first place, your information wouldn't be inside of there. So you have to be really careful on how many credit cards you're applying for, how many loans you're applying for, things like that, if you really want to protect your security. Now, I know this is tough because obviously you want to, especially like in a car loan situation or things like that, you want to apply for as many car loans as possible so that you can get the best interest rates. But you really have to balance security versus how much money you want to save and things like that. If it's more important that you want to save money, then you'll apply for as many loans as you can to see what the best rate you can get. But if security is more important to you, then maybe you should limit yourself to very few options. Unfortunately, we have this security paradigm where you have to give something to get something, or you have to take something away to have better security, and it's just really a matter of personal preference to you how important security is to you. Unfortunately, in this situation, if you applied for those cards, there's not really much you can do other than the steps that I talked about previously on monitoring, and if you have fraud committed against you, following those steps. Now, if you're involved in business or IT, there's something that you should really think about. You should think about having the funding and the resources to be able to scan your network for these misconfigurations, to do penetration testing on your network, to try to prevent these situations from happening and reduce your liability. So if these situations happen, you could say that you were scanning the networks for these problems and hopefully limit the amount of times these situations happen. Unfortunately, nobody's perfect. No network is perfect. There's always problems within networks just because they're so complicated. But the more you can do, the more resources and funding that you can give to try to look for these problems, the less likely the problems will happen, and hopefully the less likely you'll have big incidents where you have 100 million people breached. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this content. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.